Hello, Undisputed listeners. This is Skip Bayless. Weekdays on Undisputed, I debate my co-host Shannon Sharpe on the biggest sports news of the day. But now it is time for me to unleash in a brand new way. Introducing the Skip Bayless Show. My opportunity to share behind-the-scenes stories about things I've seen and confrontations I've had from decades covering the NFL and NBA. This is an opportunity to go so much deeper into solo opinions that just don't fit in rapid-fire debate. I will respond to your no-holds-barred questions. You can ask me anything about why I've said what I've said, or about what goes on off-camera on Undisputed. Your question should be as provocative as you want. My answer sure will be. New episodes of the Skip Bayless Show will come out each week. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Good morning. How about that game last night? How
morning. Yeah, if it's the last initially is a J, OBJ, LBJ, you had a great night last night.
You know, Shannon Sharpe, you're right. You got me today. You got me for the rest of this season because my Dallas Cowboys just laid the biggest egg this side of Jurassic Park. And now it looks like Odell and the Rams are going to go to Tampa and send Tom Brady into early retirement. And from what I saw last night against Utah, I think your Lakers are going to turn it around and win this year's NBA championship. Congratulations. I give it up to you. No, you win. It's your day. It's your show. Speak.
Let me see if you still feel that same way after I bury your Cowboys in this segment.
All right, I'm not sure I believe the Lakers angle there. We'll get to that team. And unfortunately, Skip, days later, it still stings what happened to the Cowboys. And that is how we begin this show after, the Cowboys' latest playoff exit. Rumors have started to swirl around Mike McCarthy. He's only coached Dallas for 2 seasons, but the team's lackluster playoff game left a lot to be desired. However, on a local radio show, Cowboys EVP Stephen Jones was asked if he felt good about Mike McCarthy returning to coach the team next year and replied, absolutely, very confident. But we all know who's in charge over there. Shannon, can you see Jerry Jones firing McCarthy?
I really can't, Skip, because this is a guy that Jerry Jones wanted 2 years ago. He wanted him so much, he let him stay in his house overnight. They had beer and nachos. And Jerry Jr., Jerry's son, said, Dad, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and sign him. He's everything that you want in a head coach. And he ended up becoming Jerry's head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Skip, I don't see why you would fire Mike McCarthy because he went 6-10 last year. You didn't make the playoffs. You go 12-5 this year. You win a division. You have a home field. And so why are you firing him? And he's the type of guy that Jerry wants as a head coach, Skip. He won't fight Jerry on any issues. He won't push back. Remember, Skip, Mike McCarthy replaced the guy that you wanted fired probably 2 years into his tenure. And he kept him as the head coach for 9.5 years. Just 3 weeks ago, Skip, and I got this quote. 3 weeks ago, after hanging 56 on Washington, Jerry saying of Mike McCarthy, he's a difference maker, and that needs to be recognized. That's what he said 3 weeks ago. Why would you fire a guy, Skip, when what transpired Sunday had been transpiring all year? Skip, they are the most penalized team as far as penalties per game. They were 1 yard short of being the most penalized yard team. So having both. Skip, they didn't play well. They played down the so if you play somebody that's not good, you hang 56, you hang 51, everybody's yelling and screaming. But when they stepped up in competition, they lost the games. Remember, you never accept anything in a win, you wouldn't in a loss. When you were getting all these penalties and you were winning, I never heard anybody mention a thing. when he was making these blunders with clock management, this started in week 2, Skip. Oh, it's okay. They're going to clean that up. They got so many weeks to clean this up. Now, all the things that had been happening in the regular season came to a head in the playoff. Now you get bounced. Now you want to fire Mike McCarthy when this has been a reoccurring theme all season. They didn't just become the most penalized playoff team. That was their body of work for the entire 18-week season. This was who they are. Skip, we talked about Dak. He got upset. Oh, you say slump. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, you say this. That's not what we're saying. You don't know what these guys doing in the locker room, yada, yada, yada. Lo and behold, you get to the game on Sunday, and every single issue that you've had for the entire season presented itself to you in the playoff game, and you got bounced. So to make a long story short, and unfortunately I made a short story long, Mike McCarthy will be your head coach next year. And you will be in the same position again, saying, get rid of Mike McCarthy. He's the bane of your existence. And unfortunately, you and I do not have any say or control of the Cowboys. One Gerald Wayne Jones does, and Mike McCarthy will be back next year.
Shannon Sharpe. First of all, I'm here to tell you that this is wishful thinking on your part because you want with all your heart and soul for Mike McCarthy to be back with my Cowboys because you just laid out the case. My Cowboys will almost certainly be doomed next year again if Mike McCarthy is back as their game manager, clock manager. You know it, and I know it. So I disqualify, and I ask all of our viewers out there with half a brain to disqualify everything you just said because you're saying it from the ultimate Cowboy hater point of view. You want Mike to remain because you know Mike will be the bane of my existence next year and then the next year and the next and however long Jerry clings to him. Okay, now it's my turn.
You wanted him hired. You wanted him hired.
I blessed it because
hire him.
Oh, okay, well, who wouldn't bless it after all those years of 8-8 Jason Garrett? 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. I was 8-8 up. It ate me up to go 8-8 every year because he was not a CEO. He was not a commanding leader. I think he's a pretty good offensive coordinator. I know he crapped out in New York because they were a crappy team, but still, correct. Jason Garrett was not cut out to be that dominating, locker room inspiring head coach. He just never was. He's a nice guy. I've covered him. I like him. I get it. It was time for him to go after 2 years, to your point. And I just had to live and let live and live and let live. And it just drove me crazy. And I thought, Mike McCarthy's a made man. He's got a Super Bowl ring from long ago in a galaxy far away. And now I agree with you. It was thanks mostly to Aaron Bleepin Rodgers. Okay, now, back to me. It is now my turn after your long story short, story long. I tried to contain myself yesterday. I did not want to unleash on this because I am lifelong, diehard Dallas Cowboy true blue fan to the core. And I was irrational yesterday. I was out of my mind yesterday, and I tried to exercise what I call my 24-hour rule. I like to sleep on it one night, let everything settle, and then if I still believe what I think I believe, then I plunge, I unleash. And I am unleashing today. Mike McCarthy has to go. It is clear as day. He is the reason that team woefully underachieved and lost to a team they should have beaten at home on Sunday. Okay, so now back to the question. Do I think there's any way that Jerry Jones will fire Mike McCarthy? I am going to go, for me, this is huge. I'm going to give it a 25% chance when usually I would give it a 0% chance. Why do I believe that? Because of what Jerry said after the game. Jerry Jones, after that game, and trust me, I have known him from day one. I know him inside and out. As I keep telling you, I wrote 3 books on the Cowboys. I spent literally hundreds of hours with Jerry Jones. That was the most measured postgame, the most rational, objective postgame comments from Jerry I have ever heard. He was steamed to his core. When he was asked, when was the last time you were this disappointed? He said, I can't remember when. Why was that, Shannon? Because he had laid it out all week. This is our chance. Our window is probably starting to close, but this is our chance because the injury god said, let there be Cowboys this year. They were about as injury-free as you could hope to be at this point in time. That's a talented football team with a quarterback that he caved in and paid $75 bleeping million to just for this season. So he went ahead and said, okay, there's the leader of my franchise. That's the big game quarterback who's played at a very high level in his previous 3 playoff games, even though he'd lost 2 out of 3. He was not the reason they lost. And Jerry is thinking to himself, this is my time. And Jerry, as often as you point out, talked about his mortality on this earth. He is 79. He will turn 80 years of age next football season, October 13th. You don't think that's starting to eat at him? You don't think he's starting to think that maybe his window is starting to close on this planet?
Yeah, of
because
course.
I believe it, knowing Jerry the way I know him. Go ahead.
Skip, but what did he say last week? When they asked him, was it Super Bowl or bust? What did he say? He said, absolutely. So he understands that this thing, the window doesn't open, it closes. And he had as greater opportunity this year as he's ever had. As you mentioned, everybody was healthy. His receiving core was healthy. His offensive line, he got Ty Smith back. His quarterback was healthy. They had just hung, 50-something points on the Eagles. Defense was healthy. So everything lined up perfectly. But, Skip, this is who you've been all season long. You know it.
Okay, I got it. That's my point. You're actually making my case for me. Because I watched this team get off to a hot start. And again, I gave you the field in the division because I didn't think anybody was even in Dallas's class. That doesn't mean that Dallas is great. That just means the rest of the division is a bunch of garbage. I do think Philly was a threat, and I think they turned into a decent team at the end of the year. But Washington was not a decent team, and obviously the Giants were all-time pathetic, and they're starting over yet again. They've had two-year coach, two-year coach, two-year coach, and now they're starting over again. They don't have a quarterback. Washington doesn't have a quarterback. You don't think Philly has a quarterback. So if you want to go, we won the division by default. We did. I'll give that up to you. They also won me 10 cases of Diet Dew, thanks to you. Thank you very much for that. But the point is, in the biggest picture, when I least expected it, they did not show up for a game against your Denver Broncos. 30-0 going to the fourth quarter is just flat out wrong. If you're that team that's going to make that run and you're that late in the season and you fall down 30-0 to a mediocre Denver team, that's just wrong. I'm sorry. That's where I first said the bell was going off in the back of my brain. The red flag was flying. And I said, God. And I tried to sweep it under my carpet, and I couldn't because then Thanksgiving happened. And I've told you before, that game took 5 years off my life because we're just better than that Raider team. This is Thanksgiving at Jerry World. This should be your stage, your game, to make a Super Bowl statement, and you know what happened. They lost in overtime to the Raiders. I know the Raiders made the playoffs, but you know and I know it was just disastrous. And then you know and I know Arizona was stumbling, tumbling toward the finish line. We saw what happened last night. I know. I got it. I got it. You can just dismiss them. And they rocked us, and we fought back. What Dak does best is he gets hopelessly behind, and he goes warrior, and he battles back, and it's always too little too late. And he did it again against Arizona, and it came down to a call on fumble, not fumble, and you say, oh, and here we go again. And we lost. That's all I know is we lost. And we're going to break down that last play of the San Francisco game the other day, but we lost. And we should have had a shot to steal the game, but we lost. And Mike McCarthy, in those 4 games in question, did not have my team ready to play football. It's as simple as that. He is simply, in all my years, and I've been doing this for a lot longer than you played, I have never in my life seen a more uninspiring motivator than Mike McCarthy, and I got to see it, unfortunately, way too up close and way too personal in Hard Knocks. I got to see him address the team in the meeting room and then in the locker room before preseason games, and I was ashamed for him because it is not his forte. So I'm asking Shannon, what does he do? He doesn't call the plays. No. He stands on the sideline like a bump on a log, like a spectator looking up at the scoreboard to see what he should do next, like up on the Jumbotron. Oh, should I challenge? I don't know. And then that Bones Fossil moment when there's a penalty on the play and on the touchdown play, and Bones is tapping him on the shoulder saying, hey, we got a penalty. We can go from 1 yard for 2 points. And McCarthy looks around and says, 2. Go for 2. Like he's lost.
Right.
And we saw the game mismanagement. We saw what happened at Chargers. We saw what happened against Philly at home on that Monday night. We've seen it all year long. Yes. I don't trust him. So in the end, you say, what does he do? Well, what was my bright spot? In the end, and you started to call this at mid-year, all of a sudden, my offensive firepower team turned into a defensive team. And by the way, my defense, it wasn't ready to play on Sunday, but in the second half, it started to click and lock in. And what happened? It held San Francisco to 7 points in the second half. Well, how many times do we see the defense rise and shine at Patrick Mahomes and at least keep him in a game that they scored, 9 points in, right? 19-9, but they held Patrick to 19 points at home. So, again, they played inspired football. And I told you on that one Thursday night game, I got to see it at New Orleans, and I thought that was a dangerous game for my team. And Dan Quinn, because of COVID protocol, Mike McCarthy had to stay back in Frisco, Texas, watch it from his hotel room. Dan Quinn got to go down to the sidelines with his cap on backward and be the head coach. And it did my heart so much good because I saw, dare I say, life on the sideline. I saw energy. I saw enthusiasm. I saw butt slapping. I saw inspiration that I never felt from Mike McCarthy. That team is so deadheaded on the sideline, and all of a sudden Dan Quinn brought life because Dan Quinn has been a head coach in this league. And Shannon, I know he only finished a game over 500 in Atlanta, but he was there for 5 years and 5 games before he got fired. And obviously, he got your hometown Falcons to a 28-3 lead over the GOAT in a Super Bowl at Houston. Well, that's pretty good, right? Okay, as we speak, who is the number one candidate in this country for an NFL head coaching job? I wish it were a black man, but it's not. It's Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn. Every job I see, every reporter I see, Dan Quinn's he's a candidate. Dan Quinn might be the primary candidate. Dan Quinn. It's like, what are there, 8 openings? I think he might be the primary candidate for all 8 openings. And I saw Adam Schefter say last night on ESPN, what's that?
Except Jacksonville.
Except Jacksonville. Yeah, because he turned. Well, I don't know if that will come back into play now. I have no idea. But you're probably right. But again, Adam Schefter is pointing out that, wait a second, Jerry Jones does not want to lose Dan Quinn. Obviously, Kellen Moore will be a candidate for some of the jobs, and he doesn't want to lose Kellen Moore either. But my point is, if he really doesn't want to lose Dan Quinn, I think there's going to be only one way to keep Dan Quinn, and that is to elevate him. Am I overreacting? No, I saw the job he did with the defense. And Shannon, seriously, in the biggest picture, I know 11 from heaven fell into our laps in the draft, and you saw that coming first. But my point is, Mike McCarthy made one statement all year that I agreed with. Never in his career has he ever seen one side of the ball flipped through an offseason the way the Cowboys flipped their defense. They were arguably the worst defense in pro football a year ago. They finished second worst in yards rushing allowed. But my point to you is, didn't a lot of that have to do with just Dan Quinn's energy and his savvy and his enthusiasm and his brain? I don't know. He turned it around. It helped to have Micah. It helped to have this free agent and that free agent. But in the end, he flipped it on its head. And again, I think he could flip the whole team on its head. So if the window is closing, Jerry didn't. he did not bless Mike McCarthy after that game. And by the way, as Jenny read Stephen Jones' quote on the radio show, his quote was, "I'm very confident that Mike will be back." Well, that was interesting to me because it sort of cracked the door open like there will be discussion about this, but I'm very confident he will be back, as if it was still in play that we need to sit down and kick this around. Well, I think Jerry's going to really kick it around. Go ahead.
I think so too, Skip. I think for the simple fact of that when you were 12-5 and you believe you are the better of the two teams that play and the lesser team wins, obviously that's going to get floated around. But I think the thing is, Skip, and if you look at Dan Quinn and you look at Mike McCarthy, they're two totally different coaches. Dan Quinn is a rah-rah. He's very motivating. He's very, engaging, slapping guys, high-fiving guys, getting guys going. That's not what Mike McCarthy is. But see, Skip, when you got a Brett Favre, you got an Aaron Rodgers, you don't need to be that. You got two all-time greats that's going to go out there and play at an extremely high level. So he came in thinking like, this is who I am. Let me fold my arms. Let me let my lieutenants run the ship, and I just oversee everything. You ask, what does he do? What does he do? He doesn't strike you as a CEO, but how can you be a CEO, Skip, under Jerry Jones? You know Jerry micromanages everything. You know you only head coach in title only. Skip, Jerry Jones is telling you who's injured, when they're going to be back, and if they're going to play this week or the next. No, Skip, no owner, no general manager does that. He emasculates his head coach.
Agreed.
So how can somebody succeed in that role when Jerry constantly is overseeing and putting his thumb on his head?
Okay, at least Dan Quinn got to experience a taste of it this year, so it wouldn't be all new. At least he's established some rapport with how to manage Jerry, to how to almost coach Jerry. And in the end, to me, Dan Quinn's got a little bit of Jimmy Johnson going, just a little bit. I don't want to overdo this, and I'm desperate. I admit you got me. I'm desperate, but there's a little bit of fire in him that I love that could inspire a whole football team. And yet he seems like he has enough charisma about him that he might be able to deal with Jerry enough to just sort of, keep him at arm's length. Maybe you got to once a week sit down and have a beer with him and eat some nachos. But in the end, again, if he just wants to hang out with Mike McCarthy, the ultimate puppet again, he'll go forward with this. But I'm telling you, the one statement Jerry made after that game, the score was not indicative of that game. That's all I needed to hear, because he never says something like that. He didn't want to hear about the controversial last play. He said it was irrelevant to him because he knew what we all knew. Dallas had no business even getting back in the game and having that maybe miracle shot that got robbed from them by that umpire. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Jerry knew. Jerry was seething over what he did not see. He did not see energy or effort, or he didn't see a team that was prepared to make a run. You've been on those teams. You know what it looks like and what it feels like, and you couldn't see it. And you couldn't see it down the stretch of the season until that bogus, I told you it was fool's gold game at Philadelphia against the Eagles practice squad. Come on, stop it. I don't want to see it anymore. I want to see Dan Quinn as my coach, because if the window is closing, give Dan Quinn a couple of years. I guarantee you he'll make a better run at it than Mike McCarthy will be able to.
But Skip, you and Jerry and you guys, you glossed over everything. The last 13 weeks of the season, you guys couldn't run the football. What happened Sunday? The 17-game regular season, you guys was the most penalized team in all of football. What happened Sunday? In 17 weeks, Dak was so herky-jerky. What happened Sunday? Okay. So everything, your season, came down to a microcosm. It was a microcosm. Game Sunday was a microcosm of your season. Skip, I said, Skip, I don't believe Mike McCarthy is the right guy. I said, I don't believe you're giving the quarterbacks, like you give Brady a lot of credit for Belichick's success. You gave Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre no credit for Mike McCarthy's success. And now he gets there and you see He didn't all of a sudden just become unmotivating. He didn't all of a sudden just become what you see him is. That's what he's been. And you guys didn't see it because I think the thing is, Skip, go ahead.
Okay, it's just the bottom line.
What's your bottom line?
All Jerry needs to know is that my team led the league in this category, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and one other category, penalties. That is poor coaching. You are a poorly coached football team, especially if you go into a playoff game and you set a franchise playoff record for penalties. That's all I need to know. Over and out. I've seen enough. I believe Jerry's seen enough, and he should have the guts as he approaches 80 years of age to pull the trigger. Do it. Dan Quinn is sitting in your lap. If you don't, he's going to be gone, and the defense is going to have to start over with the new coordinator.
And then Kellen, too. Everyone's interviewing him.
All those points you scored, all those yards you piled up. You got 17 points on Sunday. You had a little over 300. You had barely 300 yards on Sunday. What good is all of that if you can't get it done when you absolutely have to have it? Hey, thank you.
I agree.
So now you're coming around.
Cowboys lost.
Empty calories.
And empty calories. We're throwing that in, Shannon.
Yeah.
All right.
No mercy.
LeBron and the Lakers got back on track last night versus the Jazz, dropping a game-high 25 points. The King owned up to his promise. He tweeted about being better. LA now sits at 500 in the 7th spot out west. So, Shannon, scale of 1 to 10, how impressed were you with your Lakers last night?
Well, Skip, I gave him a 9 because it was Utah, because this is the 3rd seed in the Western Conference, and we know what Utah represents. Utah's a very good team. Donovan Mitchell is an all-star. Rudy Gobert, I think, is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. I think Draymond Green deserves that award if it was to be given out right now, but we'll see how he comes back and how healthy he is. But, Skip, for them to do what they, and especially getting down by 10 points late in the third quarter and finding a way to come back. And if you look at how they did it, a lot of the guys they did it with, Skip, were role players. If you look at all the starters, with the exception of LeBron James, they were a minus. All the bench players that played were a plus. You look at Austin Reeves, you look at Stanley Johnson, Malik Monk slid back into coming off the bench. Those guys were the ones that got them back into the ball game. Stanley Johnson was unbelievable in the fourth quarter. Skip, he's always going to be undersized because he's going to be playing your 4 or your 5. So he's trying to guard Rudy Gobert. Skip, Rudy Gobert is bigger than the giant that David killed. And Stanley Johnson is, what, 6'9"? I mean, he's like a little kid. I'm like, and he's he's battling all he can, making great plays. And then in the fourth quarter, we got the and one on Gobert. LeBron found him diving to the basket a couple of times. I thought he played well last night. LeBron was not his efficient self. He was more of a facilitator. 7 assists, 7 rebounds. I thought Russ did a good job. Even though he didn't shoot the ball well, he did a better job of taking care of the basketball. And that dunk, Skip, I think we're going to talk about it later, it kind of got them going. Because when he turned the corner, he says, I'm banging on whomever. Yeah, that's Rudy Gobert. I don't care. And it brought the house down. It seemingly energized the entire Laker sideline and the guys on the court. And I look, okay, we're on to something now. But if they play like this, Skip, they did a great job. What happened is that they started turning the ball over in the third quarter, and it let Utah get out and get to a 10-point lead. They started taking care of the basketball, started making a few shots, and the next thing you know, they track them down, take the lead, and not look back. So I was impressed for the simple fact that they beat a team that we know going to be into the playoffs, can make a lot of threes. Donovan Mitchell can take a ball game over. Rudy Gobert leads the league in rebounding. And so Conley, he's special. They can make shots. So I was very impressed with what I saw last night. Now, can they string together some of these against quality teams? We've seen them win 4 out of 5 against bottom feeders. Can they beat teams that we believe that's going to be in the playoffs? Can they string together a couple of victories against those type teams to give them some confidence that says, okay, we might be on to something?
So, Shannon Sharpe gives the Lakers a 9 for their effort last night. Does that mean Shannon Sharpe is back on the Lakers bandwagon, as in they got a shot to win it all?
No, that does not mean Shannon Sharpe is back on that bandwagon, chance to win it all. Absolutely not.
Okay, my turn. I will give the Lakers' performance last night on the impressive scale of 1 to 10 a 3. The reason I will give it a 3 is because Utah came in as number 1 in the NBA in offensive efficiency. The Lakers came in as 17th in defensive efficiency. So what really happened last night? Would you believe that these four players for the Utah Jazz combined to go 1 for 26 from 3? These four players were Donovan Mitchell. He's pretty good, right? Bogdanovich. He's pretty good. Jordan Clarkson is really a dynamo coming off the bench for them. And Rudy Gay has bounced around, but he can still stroke it. Those four players combined from 3 last night to go 1 for 26. Even worse, they went 0 for 9 in the fourth quarter. 0 for 9. And you guys locked them up. I watched the whole game from start to finish. I saw a whole bunch of uncontested, wide open, dare you to make it threes that just would not fall for the Utah Jazz last night at the Crypt. I saw an aberration. I saw a flukish game. And I'm not going to give you an 8 or a 9 as you are giving the Lakers, because I am here to tell you that with it, as inspirational as Russ's dunk was, with 8 minutes and 19 seconds left in the game last night, your team was down 9? Down 9 and wait, 8:19 left, you're down 9, and Russ's dunk just lifted everything. It changed life for the... No, it didn't. I'm sorry, It did not.
Yes, it did.
Guess who changed life for the Lakers? The guy who changed life for the Lakers last night is on his third 10-day contract. He's still on a 10-day contract. His name is Stanley Johnson. He's bounced around the league. He was once a first-round pick. We get it. But he's an L.A. kid. At least he's from Anaheim, went to Mater Dei. We get it. The point is, if we could see what Stanley Johnson did to Rudy Gobert, because they went small and Rudy had to guard Stanley Johnson. These are his 5 baskets in the fourth quarter. He goes right up through Gobert. Powered right. LeBron gave him the tip. Just go at him. Go right at his body. That was on Ingles. Look at these shots that he's making. Gobert says, okay, I'll give you that. And he strokes it from 16 feet. Bingo. And here he goes again, up and under. That's pretty easy. Where are you, Utah? What are you doing? And then he just says, I'm going right up through Stifle Tower. I'm going to stifle the tower. And he stifled him. Look at this. That's Stanley Johnson scoring 10 points in the fourth quarter. And look what they did. He cut the lead to 4. He cut it to 2. He tied the game. He put him up 4, and he put him up 4 again with 5:35 left. Stanley Johnson was the star of the game. Stanley Johnson changed life for one night. Are they going to give him another 10-day contract? He's not even officially on your team right now, and you're taking credit for what Stanley Johnson did?
Well, Skip, I don't think you can sign a guy. I think you have to sign him for the rest of the season because you only get 2 10-day contracts per team. So I don't think they can. The only way they can keep him on the team, they will actually.
That's what they said last night. I don't know.
Yeah, but with one team though.
Maybe he's official.
With one team. He was
okay.
He was on a 10-day contract with another team, Skip. I think this is only a second 10-day with the Lakers. So if I'm not mistaken, I feel correct in saying this, that if he in order for him to remain, once this 10-day is up, they're going to have to sign him to a roster spot.
Well, they better, because he was the whole show last night. Okay, which brings me to my final point about your Lakers. I thought the key to the game down the stretch was that Frank Vogel, would you believe he had the guts to play Russell Westbrook in the fourth quarter, a grand total of 3 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yeah.
This is the Russ who is leading the league by far in minutes played. Number 1 in the NBA in minutes played. But down the stretch, fourth quarter, guess who ate up his minutes? Guess who played 9 minutes of the fourth quarter last night? The undrafted kid, the rookie from the University of Oklahoma, Austin Reeves. 9 minutes versus Russ's 3 minutes and 24 seconds in the fourth. I can't imagine that Russ was real happy about that. But I think the team was real happy about it, but because they got the turnover nightmare, who is Russell Westbrook, who is still leading the league in turnovers by far, out of the way, out of harm's way. And could we see the shot that Austin Reeves made? That this was, if we could see it's a putback that he made.
Oh, yeah, the tip,
He gets his own miss and tips it with his left hand. That put them up 4. That was 3:49 left. Look at this. How good is that over Gobert? That kid can play. I told you, he's your second best all-around player. I'm being sort of half kidding about it, but seriously, on both ends of the floor, he just knows how to play. LeBron trusts him. Vogel trusts him. And he helps because he's a glue guy for them because he doesn't need the ball. He doesn't have to have the ball. But if you need him to make a shot, a key big shot at Dallas in overtime, he will make that shot. And then if we could see the ultimate dagger came from Avery Bradley. I wish it was Avery. How are you, Avery Johnson? But the point is, if we could see the shot that Avery Bradley made to dagger this game, it came off a LeBron miss. If we could see this. It's late in the game. I think we're going to see it in a second. Here we go. Okay, so LeBron's got the ball. LeBron misses 3. And guess who? Stanley Johnson gets the rebound. Back to LeBron, who flicks it into the middle, and it almost was a turnover. But guess who got it back? Stanley Johnson got it and found Avery Bradley open in the corner. Dagger, ball game. It's a little bit fluky. It's a little bit aberration. I'm not buying it. Again, they got Indiana, Wednesday night? Let's see. It's a team they should beat. But every time we say it's a team they should beat, they don't.
But Skip, we're talking about for one game. And you know that happens sometimes. If you look at all the shots that guys I had never heard of for the Nuggets making threes, they made like 23 or 35 threes. So we saw a guy that was pulling up Saturday night. He was pulling up from 28, 29 in people's face. I'd never heard of the guy. So that happens.
I got it.
But I think we need to give the Lakers some credit because you said Utah's number 1 in efficiency, and the Lakers just held them to 95 points. Whatever the reason, miss is a make or miss league. The reason why they're number 1 because they make a lot of the threes. But give the Lakers credit considering that they played LeBron and Stanley Johnson at the 4 and the 5, and sometimes LeBron took Rudy Gobert. A lot of times Stanley Johnson took Rudy Gobert, and they played them. And they didn't get crushed on the glass like they normally do.
Okay, so the Lakers had lost 3 straight games, allowing 128 a game. They gave up 130. Yes. I'm sorry, they lost by 37 at Denver, right? And then
Denver,
that happened last night. And I'll give you, I do think they just got a little ashamed that their pride got rubbed raw. I think they tried harder on defense last night, but I also think it was mostly a fact that Utah had what I believe will go down as their worst shooting night of the season. When all is said and done, you'll look back at this from those 4 stud scores of theirs. You'll say that was their worst combined game of the year. And I think it mostly had to do with it's a make or miss league, as Doc Rivers has said.
Yeah.
Okay, so they missed.
Do you believe Denver is 37 points better than the Lakers?
No.
Well, you see what happens when one team make their threes and the other, when one team misses 23s like the Lakers did and one team makes 23 like the Nuggets did, well, that's what you're going to get.
Okay, but I think the Lakers are closer to the team we saw Saturday night, the team that Magic Johnson crushed in his tweet, the team that embarrassed the great Magic Johnson. That's the team I think that we're still looking at for the most part.
No, they're not. They're not that bad. Yeah, I don't think they're a very good team, but they're not 37 points bad. Well, they lost by 42 earlier this year, Skip, to Indiana. Remember, the first time in Indiana, Skip, if I'm not mistaken, they lost by 42 to them.
Okay, so it sounds like Shannon Sharpe is back on the bandwagon.
No. All I'm saying is I was impressed by what they did last night. We're talking about last night, not what happened Saturday night, what potentially could happen Wednesday night, what happened last night. And I was impressed by that because Utah is a good team. They're number 1 in offensive efficiency, and the Lakers just held them to 95 points. Give them credit for that, Skip. Just this.
Go ahead. Throw a parade. You be the grand master of that parade today.
There you go.
The parade's not happening yet. We are far from the parade. The parade is a dream at this point.
Help himself.
No, I'm a
yeah,
truth teller.
not yet. No parades anytime soon. But we can be optimistic about the game. Okay, another game.
Yes.
And last night, it was impressive. In only his second career playoff game, this guy, Odell Beckham Jr., came up huge in the Rams' 34-11 win. The talented wideout caught all 4 of his targets for 54 yards and a touchdown. And he also completed a 40-yard pass on a trick play that set up another TD. And afterward, OBJ told the media, quote, "It just feels amazing to get the first one off your back, now knowing it's just time to put it together and make a run." So, Shannon, after what you saw last night, will Odell and the Rams beat Tom Brady and the Bucs in the divisional round next weekend? What a matchup.
I believe they will. I think this was the week 2 matchup, and we saw what Stafford did when they were in SoFi. Guys played really well, and I always felt that they were gonna have to see each other. They were going to determine each other's playoff fate, and somebody's going to make someone go home. But I like this matchup. I like what the Rams can do defensively. They can generate pressure with their front 4 without having to sacrifice their back end. Now, a lot's going to be contingent, Skip. How healthy is Tristan Wirth and Ryan Jensen? Now, Tristan Wirth seems to be probably more iffy. BA said yesterday this thing's going to come down to a game time, going to take it up to the 18th hour to give him every opportunity to be able to play, because if he can't play, that means Leonard Floyd, that means Von Miller, and sometimes they'll even bump Aaron Donald out to an end, and he's going to go against the backup. And the backup, if I'm not mistaken, Skip, got injured in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. So that's going to be a huge problem. Okay, that's going to be a huge problem if they're missing those 2 offensive linemen. But I like what they can do offensively. They're going to spread the ball around, because you saw what Arizona did. They're like, we are not letting Cooper Kupp get 14, 15 catches today. And I thought Matthew Stafford did a great job of finding Odell, of finding Higbee. And then when they started, like, okay, these other guys, and then Cooper Kupp made his catches when given the opportunity. I like the 2-headed monster that they have with Cam Akers. Skip, that's a miracle. I've never heard of it. When I heard this guy was being activated after tearing an Achilles in January, I said, active for what? He ain't played, Skip, 6 months, 173 days. He tore his Achilles in July. He's playing meaningful minutes on a playoff team in the playoffs. We know what Sony Michel can do, because, Skip, we saw him against the Ram teams in the Super Bowl go for 100 yards. So we know he's battle-tested and can run the football. This is going to be a very good game. I think Tom Brady thought that there was a great chance they would see this team again at some point. I think Sean McVay thought they would see this team again down the line at some point, and here we are. But the Rams have the type of football team that can go to Tampa and beat Tampa. Tampa knows that. They'll be on their best behavior. But it all starts with, what can they do with number 12? Can they get him off of that spot? It's a 7x9. It's the pocket, 9 yards deep, 7 yards wide. Can you get him off that spot and force him to move left, force him to move right? But, Skip, you know how they want to do it. He got the ball out in, I think, 2.1 seconds, they said, which is the fastest since 2016, 2017. Maybe when they played the Chargers. Skip, you remember that playoff game against the Chargers when Joey Bosa said, I can't get there because every time I get there, the ball's gone. That's what they're going to try to do. So you're going to have to disrupt some receivers, but you're going to have to give the defensive line a chance to get there. And that job would be made a lot easier if Wirth and Jensen are not in that starting lineup. But I like the Rams' chances. And we're going to have a lot to do betting on this game, because I know you're going to try to get your little 8 cases back. But hey, I think we might have went to 9, Skip. I think we might have went to 9.
No, 8. It was 8.
Last week, I think we went to 9. I think we got to pull the tape.
No, we got to pull the tape. It was 8 because you choked on 9 because you didn't have that kind of guts against my Dallas Cowboys. Okay, I'm not going to laugh at anything you just said about Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. and company in Tampa Bay. But I am going to warn you once more. There's one man in sports I do not bet against when the money gets pushed to the middle of the table, and that's number 12 in Tampa Bay. Now, you have me on the run. You have me backed up against the wall. You got Brady backed up against the wall because he is down his top 2 targets from the year. There's obviously no more AB, and there's obviously no more Chris Godwin. I don't know if playoff Lenny, as in Leonard Fournette, is going to be able to go on his hamstring. I don't know and doubt that Rojo, Ronald Jones, is going to be able to go. So all of a sudden, you got me again because you got Brady backed up against the wall without 2/3 of his rushing attack that was so predominant last year down the stretch as they rolled to the Super Bowl. And you got me again because the Rams are a nemesis for Brady and company. Not exactly in the same way that New Orleans has been a nemesis, but it's close. Because as you know, it was last year on November 23rd, on Monday Night Football, that the Rams went to Tampa with Jared Goff at quarterback and won that game 27-24. And they were pretty tough on Brady that night. He did not have a great night. He had a QBR of 49, which is a notch below average. And he threw for only 216, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And Jared Goff outplayed him with the QBR of 80. Again, 27-24 in that game. Then we fast forward to this year, September 26th, out here, Southern California at SoFi. The Rams won 34-24. They sacked Brady 3 times. He did throw for a ton of yards because he ended up throwing for 432 yards, but he did not have a great QBR. He had a 63, which is not terrible, but it's not Brady-esque. So you can say that the Rams have the Bucs number because I'm going to give you the combined rush yards in those 2 games. In the first, this game this year, the Bucs rushed 13 times for a grand total of 35 yards, and the leading rusher was Tom Brady with 3 carries for 14 yards. In that game last year, it was even worse. It was 18 carries for 42 yards. So I'm going to combine those and tell you that in those 2 games, the Buccaneers averaged 2.5 yards per carry. Well, you don't think that's going to heap more and more pressure on the 44-year-old quarterback who might not have his right tackle for this game against a hellacious pass rush led by the guy you say is one of the greatest defensive players ever and the current best defensive player ever, obviously, in Aaron Donald. So you got me, you got me, you got me. And I also would like to remind everybody, because I guarantee you Brady's going to be looking at this video this week, that the killer play in this year's game on September 26th at SoFi came early in the 3rd quarter. This throw went for 75 yards to Deshaun Jackson, who is no longer a Ram, now replaced effectively by Odell Beckham Jr. If we could see the throw that just lit up the afternoon and had Coach McYay, we don't have it, I'm sorry, I thought we did have it, but remember Coach McYay, as in Coach McVay, ran all the way down the sideline, trailing the play, ran all the way up the tunnel to congratulate Deshaun for that 75-yard catch that made it 21-7 Rams, and it broke it open. And do I need to remind you that coming off the field at halftime, Coach McYay was butt-slapping everybody, just going nuts like they were about to win the Super Bowl over Brady and company when it was 14-7. And again, they had their way in that game. They basically had their way in that game a year ago at Tampa. But I'm going to remind you what happened at Breeze last year when you thought that, my God, New Orleans has got Brady's number. Remember with the number they did on Brady at Tampa in that Sunday night game during the regular season last year? It was a debacle of a disaster. Worst game I've ever seen Tom Brady play. And he turns it around with a lot of help from his defense. And what was it? 3 interceptions and another turnover, a fumble lost by Jared Cook.
And a fumble by Jared Cook.
Yep, it was 4 turnovers. Okay. All right. I did see the Tampa defense take off, as in playoff launch, as in Super Bowl launch this past Sunday against Philadelphia. So I think they will be ready. I'm still going to pick the GOAT because I don't bet against the GOAT in games like this, but I give you every point you just made. And I will end with one last one. A year ago at Tampa on that Monday night, Robert Woods got 15 targets. 15 targets. That's AB kind of force feeding, right? 15 targets, caught 12 for 120. Now, Cooper Kupp had a big night, too. He caught 11 for 145. But Robert Woods, 12 for 130. Obviously, he is gone, not forgotten, but he is also being replaced by Odell Beckham Jr., who did, in single coverage last night, have a pretty nice game. He caught 4 balls for 54, including that big 31-yarder. And he did catch the fade route for the touchdown, right, on that kid Marco Wilson, the rookie 4th-round pick from Florida. I think we have that. Do we have the fade route touchdown? Here we go. Okay, he gets single coverage, and to Matt Stafford's credit, he just throws it up. Well, Odell can still catch it. I don't think he's near what he used to be in his first 2 years with the Giants, but that was a sweet throw and a very nice catch. Got his feet down. And again, he's on a 4th-round rookie, and he took advantage. And he gets nothing but single coverage because that's what's going to happen when Cooper Kupp's on the other side.
Well, that's what happens, Skip, and that's what you're going to have to take advantage of, Skip. And I tell people this all the time. When I went to Baltimore, I knew I wasn't going to get the same opportunities that I got in Denver. First of all, I didn't have the same level of quarterback, and that was not how we were going to win. So you just have to make the most of your opportunity when the opportunity presents itself. Odell understands. Now, for the most part, this might be a totally different situation. He gets single coverage, and they try to roll coverage to Cooper Kupp. He's going to have to win. Yep. He's going to get a lot. There's a potential for him to get a lot more footballs this week than he has at any point in time in his Rams career. I believe he'll be up to the challenge because what Odell can still do, Skip, he still has that lateral quickness. He still can that phone booth step, and he's a high point ball catcher. He's not a body catcher. He's a hand catcher. So that's why somebody at his size does a great job on fade routes because he high points the ball as well as anybody in football. And especially for his size, he might be the best at it because Odell might be 6 foot tall, but he can high point the ball, has great athleticism. Skip, if anybody can run a game without a run game, it's Tom Brady because we saw down 28-3, Skip, in the Super Bowl. The run game was virtually no. He's like, I don't even want a run game. All you doing is just let me stay in this rhythm because you're going to break my rhythm by making me hand the ball off. So if anybody's equipped to handle a situation where some of their running game might be less than ideal, it's Tom Brady. Yeah. But the Rams match up really well against this team. But Skip, all playoff games come down to what? Turnovers. And that's what happened. New Orleans had the game in control until Drew started turning the ball over, and then Jared Cook. They were about to go up 14, Skip, at least 10. They were. Because they had gotten in field goal range, maybe 14. And then White Jr. makes that great play, and Tom goes down, gets a touchdown, and they don't look back after that. So the Rams Matthew Stafford's going to have to do a great job of taking care of the football. But Skip, this is why last night you saw why they went and got Von Miller. He's not the Von from Super Bowl 50. But if you single him, he still can bend the edge on you and get home. Yep. And it's a lot easier to get to Tom because Tom is going to be there. It's hard to get to Kyler Murray because, Skip, you can't run past him. You run past him, he's going to jump out the window and go. So you got to, once you get even with him, you got to try to bend the pocket. It's going to be very interesting to see Leonard Floyd, Ashawn Robinson, Aaron Donald, Von Miller. What is Raheem going to do to put pressure on Tom Brady without sacrificing that back end?
I hear you. I fear it for Tom. Again, he went down 3 times against the Rams this year on September 26th. And yet, last night, Kyler Murray, I'm a big fan. We're going to talk about his future later in the show. He played simply the single worst game I've ever seen him play. Ever. It wasn't even close. I've watched him a lot of games. I've even watched a lot of his high school games in which he never lost in the state of Texas. And I don't know what got into him or out of him last night, but he was immediately out of rhythm, out of sync. He lost his poise, and he lost his accuracy. I've never seen him stink as much as he stunk last night. So that contributed to the downfall. And then the Rams hammered away with Sony and Cam Akers. And by the way, congrats to Dr. Elatraj. I know you know him, Neil Elatraj, for getting him back on that 20 kill. I don't know how he did it, but it's a miracle.
Skip, I don't need to skip.
Again, okay, but 140 yards rushing against Arizona. Can they get 140 against Tampa? I doubt it. So once again, I'm back to what I told you from the start. Go ahead.
I don't know if they need that many. I don't know if they need 140. Can they get to 100? Skip, they just need to be in a situation where the Bucs can't just pin their ears back. A lot of times when you're playing a team that can rush the passer, like the Rams, like Tampa can, you run the football just so they can have to hold it there just for an extra second. I just don't want you flying off the ball, pinning your ears back, coming after my quarterback. I just want to have you to think about it. Man, they might run that draw here. Man, what if they hit this draw? What? I just want to let you think about that for just a second. And that's what you're going to have to do. Can they get 140 against Tampa? Probably not. But can I put that seed in your mind where you're just not flying off the ball?
Okay. Can I plant this seed or replant it in the back of your psyche? I still don't trust Matthew Stafford in a playoff game. I know he finally broke through and won one last night. I think it was the equivalent of Tampa beating Philadelphia. I think it was pretty easy, maybe too easy. And ultimately, this game will come down to, will Brady make that one throw or will Matt Stafford make that one throw or one big mistake? My money's on Brady. You can have Matt Stafford all day and all night, and good luck.
Well, Skip, it'd be hard to pick against Brady making a mistake because generally over the course of his career in playoff moments, he has not made a lot of mistakes. You probably have to go once every 6 or 7 games to find him that make a mistake that costs his team, considering he's only lost 11 playoff games in his illustrious 22-year career, lets you know he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He's normally not the reason why they lose a game. They've lost, obviously, 11 playoff losses. But for the most part, he's not the reason why they lose. Yes, he's made a mistake. They've gotten picked off. But I'm with you on that one. I'm not betting no money that says, you know what, it's going to be Tom Brady that makes the mistake that cost his team the game. It could happen. Yeah. But that would shock a lot of people if it did happen.
Okay, you're already on the record. The Rams are going to pull this off.
I'm picking, Skip, I picked the Rams. I told you. Now, I would have liked it better had the Rams lost the first time because I don't like teams that beat the team the first time, kind of like Georgia, Alabama, Skip, because the team that lost the game, Skip, we can go back and look at the reasons why we lost the game, where the team that won says they're not looking at some of the things that could have tripped them up. They're just looking at, we won and look at what we did. But I'm gonna have faith in Sean McVay. I'm gonna have faith in Matthew Stafford that they get it done. They play Sunday. I think they play Sunday. Yeah.
This should be a good one for you guys. I have a feeling we could have some
there's gonna be some doing. There's gonna be some doing it.
Probably get some bets going. We got a couple days left to get going.
Let's just say I won't be down 37 cases after Sunday.
Oh, is that what it is? All right.
Let's just say that, Jenny. I will not be down 37 cases after Sunday.
No mercy.
So Dallas is out of the playoff hunt after Sunday's heartbreaking loss. And while some people are questioning the Cowboys' decision to run a QB draw at the end of the game, others are pointing out that the umpire could have followed the play better and given Dak Prescott one more shot at the end zone. I've got a lot of opinions about this. Shannon, after you've had a day to think about it, did the official handle the play correctly?
He handled it great. I didn't need a day to think about it. The Cowboys should have never been, as Jerry Jones said. Jerry said it. Skip, the guy that's in charge of the Cowboys organization, says, I am not going to put this loss on that situation because we shouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. Skip, my thing is, if you practice this play, you did a terrible job of practicing it because you left 14 seconds. Skip, that's danger, danger, danger zone. I've heard a lot of people say 16, 17. I told you yesterday, Skip, Mike, the way we did it, it was always 18 seconds. Now, Skip, it was different in my day because you remember where the umpire was back then. He was on the defensive side of the football. So when we caught the pass, it was easy for us to run hand in the ball. Skip, You don't throw the ball to the official because most of those guys only catch the ball with their grandkids in the backyard. They're not used to catching football from guys that's running and throwing the ball to him at a high rate of speed. So look at where he was. He's coming in. You should have left a crease so he could jump through the crease. He did you a favor. Most of the time, Skip, what do we see them do? They run around outside Tyron Smith. So he tried to jump through a crease that wasn't there. And he ended up stumbling over Dak. What you should have done, you can't hand the ball to your center because your center can't spot the ball. The official needs to touch the football in order for it to be a play, to be in play. Skip, that was the Cowboys' fault. You run that play, you come out better taking 2 shots at the end zone as opposed to running that play and never getting another play off. So for me, maybe Dak should have gone down 5 yards sooner. Now you get everybody there. But if you look at the way the Cowboys are moseying around, I'm looking at 85. I'm looking at a lot of these other guys. If they practiced it, it didn't seem like they were in such a big hurry, Skip. This was not a fire alarm where everybody needs to be on edge. So this was the Cowboys' fault. The play, if you practiced it poorly. And the question I have to ask, why you're in this situation? You know why? Because you make these same mistakes all year long, and it just came to a head because of the finality of the playoffs, and everybody's up in arms. But, Skip, we saw this starting in game 2, the blunders that Mike McCarthy was making, and they asked Jerry about it, and Jerry said he had no problems with it. Now everybody seems to have a problem with it when he was doing the exact same thing, and it was costing you. But you know what happened? You let it escape because you won. You never accept anything in a win. You wouldn't in a loss. If these kind of mistakes were okay when you were winning, you got to be willing to accept them when you lose.
Okay, now it's my turn. What Jerry Jones said after the game was he wouldn't even deal with the mechanics of the final play. He didn't even want to talk about it. He didn't want to address the quote-unquote controversy, as he said, because he said the game had been lost long before that. I agree. I thought it was miraculous that the Cowboys somehow crawled back in that game. I still can't quite figure out how they did it. Jimmy Gag helped. Jimmy G. He threw it to us.
Exactly. That double agent.
And Bones Fossil helped because he pulled off a fake punt that I didn't see coming, and San Francisco should have, and it worked. And this led to that, led to this, led to that. And all of a sudden, after I was right there with Jerry about the final score was not indicative of what had happened in the game, I look up and we have a shot. It's a long shot, but it's a shot. We have a shot at stealing the game. A miraculous steal of a victory was right there within our grasp. 24-23 was rearing its ugly head for 49ers Nation. And as you well know, 28-27 reared its ugly head to me when Dwight Clark went up into the fog and snatched it. I was there early 1982. So we've had all these kinds of reversal of fortune games have gone back and forth between these two franchises for decades. Right. And I thought, are we going to see another one here? Okay, I want to be very clear about what I'm about to say. I do not want to take Dak off the hook for his egregious post-game remarks about, yeah, they should have thrown stuff at those refs as they ran off the field. It was unconscionable. It was so out of bounds for a franchise quarterback that after I slept on that for a night, I was horrified for his sake. And I know he's got a bunch of national TV commercials. And I got to tell you, if I were presiding over one of those commercials, I'd be having second thoughts today about, really, do you want him representing our product? Because that was just wrong. And I don't want to take Mike McCarthy off the hook. He said, we were in position. We should have had a last shot. Okay, don't give him any breaks on this. I'm just going to deal with the mechanics of the final play. Ramon George, the umpire, was late to the party. That's all I know for sure is that he got fooled. And it's a hard play to govern because it happened shockingly where you're expecting them to throw the football. So you drop all the way back. What is he? Starts maybe 20 yards deep, maybe 25 yards deep.
Yeah.
He is way behind the line of scrimmage. And he gets fooled because they run a draw play that almost nobody would attempt because it's way too risky. And your quarterback, your point,
Skip, no, he didn't get fooled. If you look at it, they pass set. Dak drops back like he's going to pass. So he thinks it's a pass. Dak just doesn't take off running. If you look at it, the offensive line pass set. Look, they pass it. He backs up.
Okay, but he took off running. No. I'm sorry, he ran.
Yes.
I'm sorry, he got fooled. He was late. Because he's 50 years of age and you can't expect him to suddenly go on a dead sprint and catch up with Dak Prescott. But you have to. The game dictated that you immediately read it and react to it. You got to come on the fly. You got to be on his heels because it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To your point, they used to be on the other side of the line of scrimmage where they could get easily to the football and touch it into play. Right. But in this case, you got to go between. And Dak looked over one shoulder and looked for him and couldn't find him. And here he comes flying in. And it was a terrible look for the National Football League, for which I have the ultimate respect. It's a great game. And it looked like Keystone's Cops meets Three Stooges at the end because the umpire runs over the franchise quarterback. Are you kidding me? It came to that? And again, there was enough time, even though Dak should have gotten down 2 or 3 seconds earlier. I give you that. There was still, if he was right on time, if he was Johnny on that spot, and he had found the right crease to go through, he should have gone to his left between center and left guard instead of to his right. If he'd gone through the right gate.
That's what he was trying to go through, Skip.
Okay, but he runs into Dak Prescott and knocks him over, knocks him off the ball. And all of a sudden the clock is going 3, 2, 1, and they couldn't get it off. They deserved a shot at the end zone. They did not deserve to win the game. I'm not saying that. They deserved a long shot at the end zone. As McCarthy said, 5 verticals from 24 yards away, and God knows what might have happened because at least that's what Dak does best. He's at his best late when it seems like all is lost. I'm sorry, he was just a little late to the party that had already started.
Skip, think about what you just said. Now you want the NFL to hire Usain Bolt as umpire because he want him lockstep and barrel running alongside an NFL quarterback. Skip, this is ridiculous. First of all, why are you taking Dak off the hook for the way he played? Why are you in this situation? The guy did it perfectly.
That's not the point. Stop it. No, irrelevant.
What's
talking about this play. I'm talking about the mechanics. You know and I know he was a little late. He was probably 3 seconds late to the football.
Time.
Yes, he was.
No, he was not. No, he was not.
3 seconds.
It's a 50-year-old man in position running to get in place. If you practiced it, why didn't you hand the ball to the official? If you practiced it, why didn't the center hand the ball to the official?
They're looking. Everybody looked over their shoulder. Where is he? We're like 3, 2, 1. You got to be there. You got to find the crease. You got to figure it out.
No,
you got to be ahead of the play. You have to be a little more.
It was a dumb play that you got. You play stupid game. You win stupid prize. 14 seconds on the clock. You don't throw. You run. You throw it. You don't run it. You run it. The time ran out. Now you blaming a 50-year-old because he couldn't keep up with Dak Prescott. Really, Skip?
Yep. Really. Absolutely, really.
Okay.
And by the way, it was not a dumb play. It worked. I liked the last play. I liked that because it completely fooled the 49ers. And I do agree with Mike McCarthy after the game saying, what do you want, a 51-yard Hail Mary or a 24-yard all 5 go? I'll take that for 24 yards. We just
First of all, with the amount of time that you had on the clock, you could have got 2 Hail Marys as opposed to 1 play in no time. So guess what? You're 20 yards away with no chance of getting to the end zone because the time is out. Or do you want 2 cracks at the end zone? And you might get a pass interference on one of them. So which would you like, Skip? 2 shots at the end zone or no shot at the end zone?
Okay. All I know is my offense got set in plenty of time to spike the football and preserve 1 second on the clock. It's clear as day if you watch it. And all I know for sure is the umpire was a little late. If he had been right on Dak's heels, we get a shot. And God knows what would happen. I'm not even predicting he would have pulled it off.
So let me ask you a question. If that's the case, why aren't umpires, when running backs break long runs, why aren't he on their heels? So now we're asking the officials to run lockstep with an NFL player. Really, Skip? Really?
Well, it's the last play of the game. It's a playoff game. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to have the presence of mind to say, whoops, it's a quarterback draw. I got to go. And again, he has other duties. He's supposed to watch for holding. So he's, again, it's just a bad system. The system's wrong. You've got to have, how many referees are out there? 8? You got to have somebody in better position to spot the football on that play. Maybe it shouldn't be his responsibility. Maybe it should be a side judge. I don't know, but you have to fix it. Where my offense is set. My offense is all in position. They're looking around like, come on. And we lost because of that. We lost the opportunity
you didn't lose
to
because
steal
of that.
The game because of that.
You lost. First of all, you lost because you had 14 penalties. You lost because you couldn't run the football. You lost because your offense was up and down all season, and they were up and down in that game. But Skip, what you're trying to see now,
I'm right about this.
You said
we deserved the last shot.
What you said you weren't going to do yesterday, you turned around and did today. You said you weren't going to take Dak off the hook. You weren't going to take McCarthy off the hook. And lo and behold, one day later, yes, you did. You blamed their loss on this play.
I said it yesterday. I said yesterday they deserved a last shot. I tweeted it immediately. Go look at my timeline. In instant time, I said they got robbed of a last-second shot to steal the game. That's all I know. The referee crew failed them. The referee system in the NFL failed them. They played their part. The referee was late. Simple as that.
Well, this is what we know. The crew in Cincinnati is probably not going to work another game. That's what's being reported. Now, what I've seen the NFL put out about the situation with Ramon George is that he did his job correctly. I heard officials on other networks that do this, like our Mike Pereira, said he did his job correctly.
I saw it. They are going to
I know you saw it. I know you saw it.
They're going to defend their own. They're going to defend their own. Way to go. Congratulations.
And Skip Bayless is going to defend his, and guess what? And Skip Bayless is going to defend his Cowboys. So you guess what?
I
get everybody got a dog in the fight.
And you know in your heart of hearts, I'm right about this because Skip, I'm always right. So go ahead.
You're asking an official to be Usain Bolt. You're asking him, even though you just said he has other responsibilities, he has to also make sure that the offensive line is not holding, the defensive line is not holding. You want him to obfuscate all his duties and just worry about Dak.
I don't care about obfuscation. I just care about, I want him to be me. I'm a lot older than he is, and I promise you I can run faster than he can. I promise you. I would have been on Dak's heels, but I'm a Cowboy fan.
Of course.
I would have been able to spot the ball. I would have beaten Dak to the spot.
First of all, you would have taken the ball out of Dak's hand and ran it down there and spotted it for him so you could just go up to the line and just take off. That's what you would have done.
I would have. Bingo.
No mercy.
Saturday, an old-school Big East slugfest tips off in D.C. as Villanova battles legendary rival Georgetown. That's coming your way Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox and streaming on the Fox Sports app. Well, despite LeBron and the Lakers winning last night, Frank Vogel's job is reportedly in jeopardy. According to The Athletic, Vogel's status is on a game-by-game basis, and if the team doesn't keep progressing after yesterday's victory, the coach is at risk of being fired. Guys, Shannon, can you see Vogel being fired soon?
Yes, but it's not his fault. I don't know who could have coached this team in the way it was put together. And whoever put this team together bears a lot of responsibility. I don't like Frank Vogel's lineups, his rotations. I don't like that. I think he does a terrible job of that. But I want to know the coach who they think could have this team where they thought it would be, given the pieces that he was given to work with. You're asking me to prepare a 7-course meal of a Michelin chef. When you're giving me Vienna sausages, you're giving me sardines, you're giving me potted meat, and you've given me deli meat. And you say, you know what? Make a meal fit for a king. With what? Do you understand the pieces that they have together do not work? They do not fit? No one. I've gone back and I listened and read a lot of articles when the Russ thing was coming down, and I've read and I listened to a lot. Not one person thought Russ with AD and LeBron would work. Not one. And the people said it's not a great fit, but if anyone could make it work, it would be LeBron. Not that it was a great fit, but if someone can make it work, it would be LeBron. And lo and behold, here we are. This team is old. They don't play defense. They think they can just outscore everybody. They turn the ball over at a high rate. They don't shoot threes particularly well. They'll have a hot stretch where they shoot the ball, skip maybe a game or two, and they'll shoot 40%, 45% from the three. But as a team, this is not a great shooting team. They don't rebound the ball. They turn the ball over. They don't play defense. And somehow, you know what, Skip? I can't fire all the guys, but I can fire the guy that I've trusted to coach this team. AD's missed 17 games. LeBron has missed 12. And even when those guys were playing together, Skip, I didn't see championship contender. I didn't. So, unfortunately, yes, there's a great chance that Frank Vogel is going to lose his job this year. But I just want to know, and if you bring this team back together next year, I want to see the coach that's going to get any more out of it than what Frank Vogel did.
Okay, back to two of your earlier statements when you said nobody in the world thought this would work. Well, obviously one person did, and his name is LeBron James. So
yeah, I'm talking about of us.
I know, but in the end, that's all that mattered. LeBron said, "I can make this work." Maybe he still will, but as we speak, they're 22-22. They are a 500 basketball team that was picked once upon a time to win it all. The betting services had them as the preseason favorite to win it all over the Nets. So let's keep that in some perspective. Okay. Now, back to the other earlier statement you made about that meal you described with the Vienna sausages and all that. That actually sounded pretty good to me. From my childhood, I would have eaten that up, man. That sounded big time.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right.
I ate a lot.
Go ahead.
I can name things that I ate a lot of in my childhood.
So did I. All right. Maybe last night saved Frank Vogel, but the story in The Athletic is saying it's night to night, that he's literally on a game-to-game basis. And I believe his clock started officially ticking on, what night was it? Saturday night? Was that the Denver loss?
Yeah.
Saturday night.
Saturday.
When the great Magic Johnson tweeted after the game his shame about the lack of effort he saw and no sense of urgency. And in his tweet, he said, "You deserve better, Jeannie Buss," because obviously Magic played for Jeannie's father, Dr. Buss. And Magic knows what that purple and gold uniform means or should mean. And it didn't mean that night, Saturday night at Denver, they lost by 37 points and they just looked lifeless. They looked like they didn't give a you-know-what. And it hurt Magic's soul to have to sit through that. And it probably hurt a lot of ex-great Lakers souls, the Showtime Lakers, because that just won't fly with them. And I don't think it'll fly with Jeannie Buss because she knows what should be. And on her watch 2 years ago, they did win a championship with Frank Vogel at the helm. So I give him that. But at some point, even though everything you said is dead on true, at some point you just have to change the voice in the locker room. And it's not fair, but it's reality that I think Jeannie still looks at, well, AD's about to come back, and they keep saying Kendrick Nunn is going to play, and then he gets set back with his, what's he got, a bruise, like a bone bruise in his knee, and still hasn't played one game out of 44. And I think he's pretty good. And I still think Anthony Davis is very good. I know you're very down on him because he has not played up to his top 10 player status. But I think he's still capable if he's healthy. Well, about half the time he's not healthy. And when he is, quote unquote, healthy, he's not healthy because he's always got some nick or some knack that makes him sort of eggshell body. So it's hard to trust this going forward as LeBron turned 37 in year 19. And there are too many nights they do look old and tired, especially on the defensive end, which is shocking to my eyes. It's hard to watch. But in the end, Shannon, you can't fire these players. They can't trade Russell Westbrook.
No.
They need to get him out of there, but he's unmovable. You're stuck. And it's because LeBron blessed it, and he makes $44 million this year and $47 million next year. You can't move that because everybody sees that he's a nightmare. He's leading the league in minutes and turnovers. And he's shooting, I just looked this up, of 157 qualified three-point shooters, Russ ranks 156th. Of, I think it's about 95 free throw shooters, he ranks 94th. So he's pathetic from three, pathetic from the free throw line. He's liability, and they can't get rid of him. So, again, none of that is Frankie V's fault, except at some point, you know and I know, there's one easy scapegoat. There's one fix you can make when you get desperate. You just change coaches. We see it all the time. So I kept telling you I didn't think Frankie V would last to the new year. Well, now he's lasted all the way 18 days into the new year, but he is day to day. I loved what he did last night. I told you earlier in the show, he had the guts to sit down Russell Westbrook in the fourth quarter last night. He played 3 minutes and 24 seconds. While an undrafted rookie from the University of Oklahoma, Austin Reeves, played 9 minutes. Bingo, it worked. They got home. Stanley Johnson on his third 10-day contract was the star of the show in the fourth quarter. Okay, was it an aberration? I say yes. Was it fool's gold? Yeah, probably was. But again... Yeah, if you expect
Stanley Johnson to score 10 points in the fourth...
No.
Yes, an aberration. Skip, you expect Stanley Johnson on his second 10-day contract with the Lakers to give you 10 points every fourth quarter.
Okay, but did Frankie V push the right button last night? Yep.
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
It was impressive. Way to go.
But, Skip, but here's the thing. You know this. Skip, here's the thing. And you've talked about this. It took a lot to sit Russ down for almost 9 minutes of the fourth quarter. Okay, that was an isolated. Is that what we call an anomaly? Is that something you can see moving forward? That Russ only plays 9 minutes, only plays 3 minutes, only plays 4 minutes, 5 minutes in the fourth quarter? I don't see that happening unless he's in foul trouble.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't. He just got benched for the most part. And it was great.
Yes.
Got him out of harm's way.
But if Russ, look, Skip, I don't think Russ is never going to be efficient. He'll have a game where he shoots 50%, but more times than not, it's going to be the high 30s, low 40s. That's what his percentage is. That's what he's been for his career. But the turnovers, as long as he keeps the turnovers, you can live with him being on the court, Skip. It's when he's being inefficient and he has 5, 6, 7 turnovers that he becomes unwinnable with him on your team.
No mercy.
With Kevin Durant sidelined, the Nets fell to the Cavs 114-107 despite a combined 49 points from James Harden and Kyrie Irving. And afterward, Kyrie was asked if he'd reconsider his vaccination stance in order to play in Brooklyn's home games while KD is out. But the superstar remains steadfast in his decision. Take a listen.
It's not going to be swayed just because of one thing in this NBA life that somehow is, somehow it's brought to my attention as being more important than what's going on in the real world. It's just not happening for me, and I respect everyone else's decision. I'm not going to ever try to convince anyone of anything or any of that. I just am standing rooted in what I believe in. And though we're dealing with this right now with Kev, I just know that I'm protected by the organization. I'm protected by my teammates. I'm protected by all the doctors I've talked to. And, I just stand rooted.
Okay, Shannon, your reaction to what Kyrie said?
I'm not surprised because Kyrie never made his decision based on basketball. This was a personal decision with him. It wasn't about winning a championship. It wasn't going to change his mind if Kevin Durant got injured. Kyrie Irving made a decision. He says, I do not feel comfortable putting this vaccine in my body. Nothing that has transpired is going to make him waver from that, Skip. He's on that heel. He almost has to stay there now because if he comes off that heel, why did he get on that heel to begin with? The Brooklyn Nets caved. So why would he come off the heel, Skip? He didn't come back to them and say, hey, guys, y'all let me play. He said, y'all, I made my decision. Y'all made y'all decisions. I'm comfortable with the decisions that we've made. Brooklyn came groveling back to him. He didn't come back to them. So why would he change? Kyrie has made it abundantly clear, Skip. The thing that like, dislike, whatever the case may be, when he makes his mind, he made his mind up, he no longer wanted to be in Cleveland. What did he do, Skip? He says, I'm going to have surgery and I'm not going to play. He left. When he made his mind up, it's like, you know what? After this Boston thing is not going, I'm out. So he's a guy that's very rooted, that's very steadfast in what he believes. Once he gets something in his mind, there's no changing of his mind. And I'm cool with that. But if you thought that Kevin Durant's injury, you thought that there's a possibility that it would increase your chances of winning a title, if you thought you not being vaccinated decreases your chance of winning the title, was going to sway Kyrie Irving one way or another, obviously you have not followed this guy's career over the last 5-6 years, and you've heard nothing that he said. So I am not surprised that he has not wavered. I'm not surprised that he is not going to waver. He's on this heel. The vaccine is not going into my body, and there's no circumstance that can happen around me, Skip, that's going to change my mind.
Okay, I hear everything you just said, and I hate to admit it, I'm not surprised either. Maybe I was hoping against hope that now that Kevin Durant's gone down for a while, Joe Harris is still out for a while, I thought maybe Kyrie would see the light, finally just give in and say, look, just for the good of the team, to help us stay afloat, I finally did it. I got vaccinated. But as he said, I am rooted, and as you said, he's rooted on that hill. And it's a hill, yes. And he's on top of that. It's a mountain that he's on top of, and he's not coming down.
He is, Skip.
And
yes.
And yet, it would do my heart good. It would do my mind good, because I'm a Kyrie fan just as a pure basketball player, because I've never seen anything quite like him. I wish he would tell us why. And he doesn't owe that to us. I just would like to hear why. Why deep down? What are your misgivings? What are your issues with getting vaccinated? It would help me to justify in my head why he is hurting his team's inability to win basketball games and maybe a championship, because he won't. Why won't you? It would just help me to hear. Maybe it would make sense why not. But I don't know why, because he won't address it at all. He just says, I'm rooted. And he continues to make the point that real life is more important to him than basketball life. So he says, I spend much more of my time in my real world than in this basketball world. Okay, got it. So what's going on in that real world that makes you not want to get vaccinated? And for me personally, and you and I have talked about this, Shannon, obviously we just want to win. So are you telling us, Kyrie, you don't really care that much about winning? Is it because you already got one ring and you feel like you're a made man and it's just fine? You'd rather stand by your principles off the court, whatever those principles might be, I don't know. And yet, if I bring it down to our level, I obviously got vaccinated twice, and then I got boosted. You got vaccinated twice, and you got boosted because, in the end, you just want to win. You want to help us try to be the best we can be. and I want to help you be the best we can be. Well, it applies to these guys also. Obviously, for team unity, you can make it a lot easier on everybody on your team if you just get vaccinated. And we've been at this long enough that he says, I don't want to bring science into basketball. Well, all the science that I know says get vaccinated. All of it. Exactly. I don't know any. There might be some cockeyed science that you can find on the far reaches of the internet. And if you would bring that to me and try to convince me, I'd say, okay, I'll listen. But all the people that I would trust, he says he's protected by all the doctors. Is he really? Protected how?
No.
He's
I don't want any Skip, unlike you, any signs that he can bring me that says vaccine and this situation is bad, I don't want to read it. I don't want to read it because Skip, you probably older than me, but I remember polio was mandated. You had to get the vaccine.
It was.
Smallpox was mandated. You had to get the vaccine.
Mandated.
There have been people make it seem like that vaccination mandate is, oh my goodness, that's never happened before. That is just factually not true. And Skip, the thing for me is that basketball has never been, because Skip, if basketball was the end-all be-all, Kyrie would have got vaccinated. Kevin Durant got vaccinated because basketball is the end-all be-all to him. James Harden, guys, because that's what they do. They feel it's a necessary part of the job. In order for us to do what we do, we need to become vaccinated. Kyrie has never thought like that. So for me, Skip, I've given up. Kyrie is on this hill. He's planted this giant sequoia, and it's grown to an astronomical size. He's not moving off of it, Skip. So I just wish the reporters would stop asking and come up with a better question with Kyrie, what happened? Because Kevin Durant's situation is not going to change his mind. Them losing games is not going to change their mind. The Brooklyn Nets crawl back to Kyrie. Skip, he's emboldened now. Why would I get the vaccine when you came back to me?
And he reiterated last night that he's taking this stand for all those people who got fired from their day-to-day jobs because they're unvaccinated. Yeah. Okay? It's illogical to me.
Exactly. Skip, unlike basketball, Skip, there's a lot of businesses there are a lot of people that lost their livelihood because of the pandemic. And so what they're saying, the small businesses and some of the businesses that were able to stay afloat saying, we don't want to have that happen again. So in order for us to try to stay open, we need everybody to be vaccinated so we can greatly decrease the chances of us closing and losing our business. Kyrie doesn't have that to work. Skip, just imagine. See, it would feel different if they weren't paying him. See, Skip, they were still paying him for the away games. So he was still making $17 million. I'm sure there are a lot of people that wouldn't get vaccinated if you gonna still pay me my salary, I lose my job and I still get my money. Okay, well, the hell with you. Kyrie gets an opportunity. I'm not gonna get vaccinated. I still make $17 million a year. So why the hell would I get vaccinated?
I get it, but I don't.
Like you said, Skip, we got vaccinated because that's what we do. We're trying to keep this thing. Unfortunately, we have to be away this week, but we're trying to keep the thing afloat. So it's best if Skip get it and I get it. I think Jenny got it before she got little Gigi on board. So, but we good.
We're just trying to stay healthy and keep this thing going and keep everyone moving in the right direction, right? Isn't that the goal for 2022? Yes. That's what I'd like to be optimistic about, at least.
No mercy.
Cowboys, they fell short in their wild card loss to the 49ers. And Dak Prescott didn't look like the franchise QB he's being paid to be. Despite scoring 2 total touchdowns, he missed receivers throughout the day and also threw a bad pick in the second half. So, Shannon, here's the question. Can you see the Cowboys ever winning a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott as their quarterback?
Well, Skip, first of all, winning a Super Bowl is a very hard task. There have been a lot of great quarterbacks that haven't won Super Bowls, and there have been some quarterbacks that's not been great that's won Super Bowls. But I think the common theme, Skip, is that you have to have good people and a good organization from top to bottom. And to answer Jenny's question, I'm going to say no. And it's not because of lack of talent. Skip, I've seen this team over the last 25 years have a team that had 13 Pro Bowlers. I've seen a team that had 10 Pro Bowlers, 8 Pro Bowlers, 7 Pro Bowlers, numerous All-Pros. How many head coaches have they gone through? Let's see. Chan Gailey, Campo, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy. 5. No Super Bowl in the last 26 years, 9 counting. Now, what's been the one common theme? Different quarterbacks. A lot of different quarterbacks. A lot of players have come and gone. A lot of head coaches come and gone. What's been the common theme, Skip? One guy that cannot stay. He hires a chef to cook, but every time they start opening the restaurant, he comes in and he's stirring the pot. He's adding ingredients.
Yep.
Until Jerry Jones stand down, I don't see it happening, Skip. Like I said, it's not an easy task. Having played 14 years, having been successful, been on Super Bowl winning teams, I know what it takes. But I've always been in an organization where the ownership stayed out of it. The head coach did what he was supposed to do. The general manager did what he was supposed to do. People did what they were supposed to do. Owner Mr. B wasn't telling, well, I think John's going to play this week. Well, I think it's going to be another 2 weeks before the offensive line, this and that. Art Modell, I played for him in Baltimore. He didn't do that. Jerry Jones will not stay out of the way. I don't see until things change, until he stands out of the way, I don't see it happening. But I do not see Dak winning a championship under the current situation in Dallas. And it's not because they don't have talent. They have players that make the Pro Bowl every year, Skip. You remember one, like I said, they had 13 guys make the Pro Bowl and didn't make the NFC Championship game. How does 13 guys out of 22 starters not make the NFC Championship game?
Okay, quick question before I launch on this. How many Super Bowl trophies does Jerry Jones display in his office as we speak?
5.
Well, he's got 3 that he contributed to, right?
Well, yeah, he won. There's 5 of them up there. He won 3. There's 3 under his watch. Yeah, he won 3 under his watch.
Correct. So he would fire back at you. I did that. I made that work.
No, obviously, you didn't.
He made
Jimmy did that
twice with Jimmy Johnson. Okay, Jimmy did that.
Jerry
did have input. He had some input. He pulled off the Charles Haley trade, and I do believe that he helped occasionally govern Jimmy just a little bit on draft day, like go or don't go. Jerry has decent football instincts that contributed to the building of that dynasty in the 90s. And he did pick Barry Switzer after he said that 100 coaches could coach this team to a Super Bowl, and he probably picked the 101st coach on his list, Barry Switzer. Okay, but I love Barry Switzer. I'm a big fan, and I think Barry did not a good job, but a great job of getting that team to an NFC game against Dion and the 49ers after the 94 season. And it came down to the wire, and you know the rest of the story. But they did break through the next year, and they did win a Super Bowl. Okay, so I give Jerry all the above. Now back to the question. I don't know who came up with this question, because I don't really want to answer this question today, because I should plead the fifth. Yeah.
You can't.
I'm stuck. I'm raw. I'm wounded. I'm bludgeoned by what happened on Sunday. I'll be the first to admit it. And so I have to cling to the far-fetched notion that Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl for my Dallas Cowboys, because I don't have any way out. I can't just give up complete hope. I can't just go jump out the window. I got to hang on for dear life to the guy who just made $75 million, the guy that Jerry ended up caving into, being taken to the cleaners and the bank by, and betting the ranch on. He bet the ranch on Dak Prescott.
Yes.
Well, I can't get out of this one. So, yes, I believe he can win a Super Bowl for my Cowboys. A lot of good things are going to have to happen around him, because in the end, when I look back at his success, he went 13-3 as a rookie because his running mate, that number 21 back in the glory days, was leading the league in rushing. Dak Prescott was 0-6 this year when his team didn't rush for 100 yards. So he needs that. and he didn't get it this year, and we paid the ultimate price. And yet, I look back and, well, once upon a time, Shannon Sharpe won a Super Bowl in Baltimore with Trent Dilfer at quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Do I think that Dak Prescott is better than Trent Dilfer? I do. And no offense to Trent, but he was just pretty good. And I think Dak can be very good. I know you say ride the roller coaster. You're right. And yet, the 3 playoff games that he had played before last Sunday, Shannon, they were very good. That first game against Aaron Rodgers, he had a QBR of 74. He ended up averaging 77 for the 3 games. But 74 against Aaron Rodgers. Threw for 303 touchdowns. Brought him all the way back to 31 all. That was pretty great. That was a rookie Dak. And then against Russell Wilson at home, he had a QBR of 73, still very high on a scale of 0 to 100. Outplayed Russ. Made the play of the game with his legs on 3rd and 14 from the 17 late in the game. Put the game away. Okay? And then out here at the Coliseum against the Rams, QBR of 84, outplayed Jared Goff. They lost 30-22 because the defense got literally run off the field. Well, that's an average QBR in those first 3 playoff games of 77. But what happened? Well, now we're back to the old saying, money is the root of all evil. Well, some people say that's a biblical quote, but actually in 1 Timothy, the actual quote in the Bible is, the love of money is the root of all evil. Whichever way you want to slice and dice it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. But the point is, Dak and his agent decided to go to contractual war with Jerry Jones. And from that moment forward, it started to go south for Dak Prescott. I think he was much better as the overachieving 4th-round pick who didn't make much money. I think he was much happier that way. That's just me, because there was no pressure. Everything was gravy. He was getting his national ads, and the team loved him because he was the underdog beating the big dogs. And I miss that Dak. And once he got his money, once he tried to go to war for his money, he started to crumble. And I think this year he crumbled under the pressure to live up to $75 million. That's a lot of money, but that's what he made this year from Jerry Jones. And it's hard to live up to it. So do I think the window is starting to close on the offensive line? I do. I fear it next year because I fear that Ty Smith, Zach Martin just have too many miles on them. I'm not sure you can expect that much. And obviously Connor Williams, Tyler Biadasz, I think they're just average at best. Lyle Collins comes and goes. You know, he can be Pro Bowl quality, and then he'll have a game where he has 3 holding penalties. I don't know. So the point is, with no run game and a shaky offensive line, Dak's going to have a hard time. But I got to cling to the notion that he is still capable of winning a Super Bowl.
Even if I give you all of that, Skip, look at what Dak. If you go back and just look at the offensive lines that you guys have had, from Flozell Adams to Leonard Davis to Andre Garrard to Travis Frederick to Tyron Smith to Zach Martin and to the running backs, Pro Bowler after Pro Bowler, Jason Witten as the tight end. You had Daz in the Pro Bowl, Amari Cooper in the Pro Bowl. You look at the defense that you've had. Skip, what gives you the notion that you can win a championship when you've had talent? You guys have probably put more guys in the last 25 years in the Pro Bowl than maybe any other team, and you got nothing to show for it.
Second to Kansas City. Yeah, second to Kansas City over the last X years. Okay?
But Skip, if you...
I believe it because Shannon, I have no other choice. What am I supposed to do? Give up? Am I supposed to just walk out of here and let you finish the show? I'm not going to quit.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm hanging in.
I want you to get another team. I will allow you to get another team. That's the kind of guy I am. I will allow you to jump ship off the Cowboys and say, I had enough. Skip, you pride yourself. How can a guy, I just want you to answer me this. How can a man love Michael Jordan, love Tom Brady, and you tipped your wagon to a loser? The last 25 years, you've been a loser.
It picked me. I couldn't help it. It's the star on the helmet. It infected me.
It picked you.
I'm gone. I'm lost. I can't help it. I give up, but I don't give in. I give up, but I don't give in.
It's been a part of you. I get it. Guys.
So you going to ride it out.
He's riding it out.
Absolutely.
Yes, we've established that.
Ride or
There is
die,
no turning
mostly
back
die.
now.
No mercy.
But 2 minutes left in the half last night, Russell Westbrook had a highlight reel dunk over 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, and didn't shy away from celebrating after the fact. So, Shannon, what did you make of Westbrook's reaction after the dunk?
I was excited for him because it was a great play. It got the crowd into the ball game. It got his team into the ball game. But we know Russ can be explosive. Skip, we've seen him miss a lot of dunks this year. We've seen him miss a lot of layups this year because I think sometimes he leaves the floor and he's indecisive. That's why he jumps up in the air and doesn't have a plan of where to go with the basketball and turns it over. When he turned the corner last night, he's like, I'm dunking this basketball. And I don't care who's under there. I don't care if that's Rudy Gobert, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. I am going to dunk this basketball. And just because Rudy Gobert is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, it doesn't exempt you from being dunked on, Skip. You covered this game long enough. You know, if you play it long enough, somebody's going to poke on you. I saw Kevin Johnson dunk on Akeem Olajuwon. I saw John Stark dunk on everybody in a Chicago Bulls uniform. I saw Michael Jordan posterize Dikembe Mutombo, Patrick Ewing. It does not matter. If you play this game long enough, LeBron James has been dunked on, Kobe Bryant's been dunked on, Kevin Durant's been dunked on. Play it long enough, you'll get dunked on. But it was great to see, Skip, him make up in his mind, I'm going to the hole, I'm going to dunk on it, and who's ever under the basket, this will be a night you will want to forget. So it was a great play. It got him going. And guess what, Skip? It might have been his best play in a Lakers uniform.
Yeah, it just might have been. But before I answer the question, allow me to comment on the stifled tower. Rudy Gobert has to be the softest 3-time Defensive Player of the Year ever. He's just
I knew
charming.
you were going to say that. I knew it.
Well, seriously. I mean, LeBron's telling everybody, including Stanley Johnson on his third 10-day, just go up into his body, attack his body. I don't know how he gets to be Defensive Player of the Year. Remember last year, I keep bringing up the game, Ben Simmons went out to Utah without Embiid and just said, watch this. And he just terrorized him. He scored 42 on him, made 12 of 13 free throws. I don't know. I don't get it. But now back to Russ. What a reaction from Russell Westbrook after this dunk. And I give it a 10 as far as dunks go. But all of a sudden, he gets an immediate tech for taunting. Okay, we knew that was coming. And then
he should have.
He celebrates some with his teammates. He leaves Dwight completely hanging. He just leaves them like hanging. And then he wants to walk down the baseline and scream to the Laker fans. And I believe he was screaming at Laker Nation. And I can't read his lips, but I just believe the gist of what he was saying was, how dare you doubt me? I'm Russell bleeping Westbrook. How dare you doubt me? Well, Russ, the reason we doubt you is you still lead the league in turnovers. And after last night's 1 of 4 from the three-point line, would you believe you rank 152nd out of 153 qualified three-point shooters in the NBA? You're at 28.9% from the three-point line. Seriously? From the free throw line, you have plummeted to 66.8%. That ranks 98th of 100 qualified free throw shooters. It's just hard for me to get inspired by his celebration when I don't know what he's celebrating. Himself? I've told you from the start, he's the ultimate solo act.
Just that play, Skip.
So, okay, just that. Okay, but it doesn't contribute to winning because you said it inspired the team. I think it did for about 2 minutes until they went to the locker room for halftime. And then they come out, and in the fourth quarter, they're down 9 with 8 minutes left. I don't know. It's just hard for me to stomach the fact that that guy who's celebrating got benched in the fourth quarter for the betterment of the basketball team. I believe the biggest reason they won that game against a very good Utah team last night was that Frank Vogel had the guts to bench that guy and play him only 3 minutes and 24 seconds of the fourth quarter while playing an undrafted rookie from Oklahoma, Austin Reeves, 9 minutes. In the end, I just have lost so much respect for Russ, a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer, that as a winning basketball player, I give you the solo act plays, but it's hard for me to jump out of my seat about it because it does not contribute to your Lakers being any better than 22-22, 500.
Yeah, Skip, you're absolutely right. And I'm not going to debate you on the overall body of work, what the Lakers have put in, or the overall body of work of what Russ has done this year. But just that one play, Skip, you got to admit, that was probably the most exciting play in the NBA last night. Oh, and it got him going. And it seemed like he was like saying, what? What y'all gonna say now? What? Y'all got something to say about that? Y'all been criticizing me the whole while, talking about turnovers, about my shooting. What about that? I just poked on a 7'2" guy.
Yeah. He slammed on him.
You got Rudy Gobert. You talking about Rudy Saul.
And it was a good moment. We can give him that. We have been hard on the guy lately, so let's give him the moment.
No mercy.
In only his second career playoff game, Odell Beckham Jr. came up huge in the Rams' 34-11 win. The talented wideout caught all 4 of his targets for 54 yards and a touchdown. And he also completed a 40-yard pass on a trick play that set up another touchdown. So, Shannon, how big a role will Odell play Sunday against the Bucs?
Well, I think it'll be a very similar role to the one he played last night, Skip. It's all going to be contingent on what are the Bucs trying to do to stop Cooper Kupp. If you're going to take 2 guys to deal with Cooper Kupp, that means Odell's going to have one-on-one coverage, and he's going to have to win. He knows the likelihood of him getting the 10, 11, 12 targets that he got when he was a Giants early in his career. Probably not going to happen unless, like I said, the Bucs says, you know what? We're going to dedicate 2 guys to Cooper Kupp, and we're going to play one-on-one else across the board. That's when Odell has to go back to being Odell and make sure that if he gets 10 targets, he come down with 8 or 9 of those, 400-plus yards and a touchdown or 2. And so I believe the role will be similar. They give him opportunities. Odell is going to make those plays, especially if you're trying to neutralize Cooper Kupp, because we saw what Cooper Kupp did in the regular season. And it seems to me, Skip, the Cardinals went out of their way to make sure he didn't do what he had done to them in the previous 2 games in which he had played. And so that's why you saw Higbee have big catches early. We saw Odell do what he did. And Cam was able to run the football. He and Sonny Michel was able to run the football like they did. So I'm not worried about Odell. Odell will be just fine. Given the opportunity one-on-one, Odell's going to win.
But wait a second. Last time the Rams played at Tampa Bay, I'm looking at these stats, and Robert Woods got 15 targets and caught 12 of them for 120 yards. Cooper Kupp still got his. He had 13 targets and caught 11 for 145. So they both 8 and 8 and 8 against pretty much the same defense. It is the same defense. So I thought that Odell was supposed to replace Robert Woods. So why wouldn't he get 15 targets and catch 12 for 120?
He wasn't supposed to replace. Actually, he was supposed to play Van Jefferson. Robert Woods was supposed to be there. Remember, Robert Woods went down that Friday after Odell got there that Wednesday. So, no, he was not supposed to replace Robert Woods. He was supposed to be there in addition to Robert Woods.
Okay, so I can't figure out why going into last night, Odell, through those first 8 Rams games in regular season play, had average catching 3.6 balls per game for a grand total of 38 yards per game. And last night he caught 4 for 54 because he got loose for 131-yarder. Well, I thought he was a dynamo. I thought he was a franchise changer. I thought he had the greatest pair of hands that we've ever seen in the NFL. And you keep telling me, Odell, this, and I'm like, oh, what?
You keep telling me because you keep telling me Baker. You keep telling me Cleveland, and they're home, and Odell is in the divisional round of the playoffs. Odell got 6 touchdowns in 9 games with the Rams. How many did he have with Cleveland? He seems to catch the ball from Matt Stafford.
Okay, but Odell has become the Rams' 4th receiver on the list, behind even Van Jefferson and Higbee. So Really? I thought he was Odell, all caps, and he said after the game last night, we're ready to make a run. I need to see targets. I need to see pressure, expectation. I need to see Odell be Odell again.
You remember he was Odell in New York, and they weren't winning games. See, I want to see wins. So if Odell catch 4 passes and they win, I'm happy, as opposed to 20 to 12. Because when he was catching passes, all you were saying then, what are those targets getting you? What are those catches, those fantastic catches getting you? You always bring up the greatest catch we ever saw. You know what happened in that game, Shannon? The Cowboys beat them. So now you're trying to flip it. He's playing well. They're winning. Now you say, I need to see more targets. I need to see more catches. I just need to see Odell win. If he wins, everything else takes care of itself.
No mercy.
So a video of Kawhi Leonard at the Rams game went viral while Mookie Betts and PG-13 are seen having a fun time, as you should, right? Kawhi looks like his usual stoic self, to say the least. So, Shannon, have you ever seen Kawhi so fired up?
Why is he even at the game? You see Paul George, he got the little towel and he's going crazy. You see Mookie Betts, and Kawhi looks like he's texting or he's on his phone or something. Does he understand the purpose of going to the game as a fan is to cheer? I'm not even sure that he gets the purpose of being at a game.
You need to leave this man alone. If this man wants to enjoy life as a wallflower, just let him grow. Let him be he.
Well, stay at home.
Let him be Kawhi. One day he will be champs like the towel that PG is waving.
No,
And some things that he's wearing,
hot dogs. He got nachos.
Clippers champ.
I don't know. That's it for Undisputed. Skip, Shannon, great stuff.